Good morning. It occurs to me I always tell you what time of day it is. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And it's irrelevant really because you could be watching this video at any time. But hello, welcome along. I am here today, this morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because it's about 7:30 in the morning, to talk about Captain Marvel, which I saw last night. Decided against doing my review last night because I looked like I'd gone through a hedge backwards. It had been a long day. So I'm slightly more presentable this morning. So, Captain Marvel. I'm going to hold my hands up, there they are, and admit that I am very much the Marvel apologist. I have been invested in this story, this franchise, this series of films from day one, Iron Man, back in 2008. And when I went to see Iron Man, all the way back then, I had no idea what was coming, what it was building to. My ex-partner possibly did because he's, comic book reader and all those sorts of things. But me, it was a film. I enjoyed it. It had Robert Downey Jr. in. I love him. I always have. And I didn't really expect to become as invested as I have. It's all building to Avengers Endgame, which comes out on the 25th of April, and I try not to think about that too much because I get giddy and terrified in equal measure. I wish I was kidding, but that's actually true. So Captain Marvel is an interesting one because it is very much part of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But here's the twist. It's actually set before everything else. It's set before Iron Man, before all of that stuff. It occurs to me I'm not particularly articulate this morning, and that could be because it's 7:30, but I'll work on that as the review progresses. So this film is set, well actually it's set in space because it is one of the more galactic Marvel films. Yes, there are parts of it set on Earth, a good chunk of it set on Earth, but we do start up in the stars with this is the thing, right? Wow, this is a awful, ramshackle, inarticulate review, but I'm going to try and pull it back. I love Marvel. I'm a Marvel apologist. I've already said that. I'm going to be honest. The beginning of this film, personally, I think is a bit of a mess. There is too much going on with very little explanation, and it kind of feels a bit like the directors have gone, everybody knows what to expect. Let's just chuck them in. It's hectic as we get a bit and then a massive action sequence and we don't really know what's going on, and it's only really when we focus on Veers, as she is when we first meet her, and it sort of settles in and she hits her stride, that it becomes enjoyable. The early action sequence is impressive, don't get me wrong, but the whole thing just felt a bit chaotic. And it's probably, thinking back over 20 odd films, it's probably not the only one that starts with a bang and a massive action sequence, but I just felt like a little bit at sea or a little bit in space because I didn't know which way was up. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think it is. So we have Veers, and she is a Kree warrior. Now, straight away, ding, 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 if you know your stuff, you'll remember that in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, the villain of the piece, a chap called Ronan, was Kree. But these guys, they seem to be alright. They seem to be the good guys. They're sort of a bit of a intergalactic police force vibe. I can feel Marvel fans bursting into flames because I've said that. I also need to stop doing stuff like this with my hands because my freeze frames on my YouTube channel are always weird hand pictures. So there's this one. But yeah, these seem to be good guys. We're focusing on Veers, which is Brie Larson, who I will talk about at length in a bit. Her boss, if you like, the commander of her unit, is played by Jude Law, who looks like Jude Law, but with yellow eyes. Looks good, I must say. I've lost all track of how old he is, but my goodness, that man is aging well. So they go in to stage a rescue mission. One of their operatives his cover's been blown, he was undercover, and if the Skrulls, the villains, get a hold of him, then all the intel he's collected falls into the wrong hands and dramas abound. So a rescue mission occurs, it goes awry, And before we know it, Veers has ended up on Earth. Only they don't call it Earth. And it's nice because it comes up on the screen. I've now forgotten what they call it. I want to say C-53, but it says in brackets, Terran Homeworld. Again, Guardians of the Galaxy fans will know that Earth is referred to as Terra, and Earthlings, humans, Earthlings, are known as Terrans. So she's on Earth. And that is our first big clue that we are not in the present day, because she crash lands. I don't want to spoil it because I got a big laugh in the cinema and it was funny, but she crash lands into something very familiar, very big in the 90s, and no longer with us. And I will say no more about it. And I have to be honest, the 90s-ness of this film was one of the things I loved most about it, because I am, again, a Marvel apologist, also a hashtag the past apologist. I am painfully nostalgic. So setting this film in 1995, when I was 13 going on 14, playing music like Garbage and Elastica and No Doubt really pushed my retro feels buttons, and that was one of the things I enjoyed about it the most, was the soundtrack and the sort of the girl power element of it, by using music by loads of kick-ass females from the 90s. So she's on Earth. Who does she encounter but one Nicholas Joseph Fury and one young Philip Coulson? They've done that clever thing they do where they've made them look younger, because obviously, again, this is set before we meet Coulson at the end of Iron Man. One niggle, Fury refers to S.H.I.E.L.D. as S.H.I.E.L.D. a lot. We get the impression at the end of Iron Man that S.H.I.E.L.D. just comes about, or the name, making it S.H.I.E.L.D. rather than the security, homeland, whatever it is, sort of happens then, whereas this is 95 and they're referring to it as S.H.I.E.L.D. already, but that's a really minor niggle. So she meets Fury, she meets Coulson. Fury's still got both eyes, so that's exciting. He's also still got hair. And they're obviously quite new. Coulson is referred to as the new guy, and obviously we know what part he goes on to play in the Avengers Initiative and all those other films. One of the things I loved most, alongside the 90s-ness and the fact that it is female-led, was getting to see Samuel L. Jackson play a bigger part. He's always dipped in and out of the Avengers films, but here he's very much alongside Veers / Carol for a lot of the film, and I enjoyed the interplay between those two. I enjoyed seeing him running around being a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, not being Director Fury with his eye patch and his leather jacket. Not that I don't love that incarnation, because obviously I do, but just seeing him as an agent on the ground, in fights, kicking ass and being a proper S.H.I.E.L.D. agent was really, really fun to see. He's Samuel L. Jackson. Some of the lines he delivers, he's beautiful because he's so good at what he does. And he's played this character for a long time. It was probably fun for him to play a younger incarnation of Nick Fury. To say any more would be to give too much away. I will big up an Australian actor called Ben Mendelsohn, who is the leader, if you like, of the Skrulls, of the villains. He was very good. Brie Larson, exceptional. I'm appalled to say this might be the first thing I've seen her in, because I've had a little look on IMDb, and the biggest thing she's done in recent memory is Kong Skull Island with Loki. Nice. And I haven't seen that. Oops. Which is weird, because I like a Kong film. She was very good. Very, very good. There's much being made about the fact that this is the first female-led film in the MCU, and she carries it beautifully. She's funny, she's dignified, she's feisty, and yeah, she's very, very watchable. I mean, beautiful, but just very believable in that role. I liked her a lot, and I'm excited to see what happens next. Speaking of which, on the what happens next front, of course, as this is a Marvel film, and as we've come to know over 20 odd films, there is an end of credit sequence. Well, actually, there's not, there's two, because there normally are two. So the lights, the credits started to roll last night. Nobody moved because everybody knows we're going to get a little bit extra. So we all sat there and we got our first extra bit that relates to something that we saw at the end of Avengers Infinity War. And then half the audience left, and I was like, amateurs, because obviously it's a Marvel film, man, there's going to be another one at the end, and there was. And again, I'm not going to say anything about what that was, but it's all very exciting. Avengers Endgame is coming. Actually, I've just remembered what the second one was. The second one was funny. First one, vital, interesting, ooh, that sort of vibe. The last one, the latter one, very funny. All in all, it's great. It's very watchable. It's very entertaining. I will definitely see it again. Of course, I will. Maybe on second watch. Now that I've seen all of it, the beginning will be easier to process. Oh, how can I not mention Annette Bening? What a woman. Again, no idea how old she is, but she looks fantastic. And I like the use of these, you know, possibly award-winning, just these really strong older actors coming across and being in these films. There's Glenn Close has a bit part in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and it's beautiful. Annette Bening is brilliant in this, and it just adds that bit of weight and gravitas, having Anthony Hopkins in the Thor films. Although, if I'm honest, I think he was a little bit hammy, but that's just me. So it is lovely that you get these up-and-comings, you get new stars. Obviously, the Avengers, Captain America Civil War sort of broke Tom Holland into the big time when he played Spider-Man for the first time, and then he's gone on to Homecoming, and we've got Far From Home coming out too. I've phrased that badly. So, yeah, you get these breakout stars, you get people, you know, like your Jude Laws and your Annette Benings who have had really long respected careers who get to come across and play in the MCU, and it's really quite smashing to see. This has been the longest review I've done thus far, so I'm definitely going to knock it on the head. I enjoyed Captain Marvel very much. I don't need to tell you to go and see it, because if you're a Marvel fan you're going to, and if you're not then you probably won't. But these are my thoughts. Slightly cluttered, chaotic opening sequence, hits its stride once she lands on Earth. Brilliant interplay between Veers and Fury. Lovely to see a young Coulson with a quiffy hairdo, and just a lot to get excited about. And all hail the 90s. I like that vibe very, very much. Go and see Captain Marvel if you want to, and if you don't, then, you know, don't. Katie out. Bye-bye.